Hey everybody, this is Russ from Retro Game Core. So, as you probably know from watching this channel, I'm a big fan of retro handheld emulation devices. And I also have kind of branched out a little bit over this past year and looked at some other things including mini PCs as well as like Android TV boxes, things that you can plug into your TV and enjoy gaming with as well. Now in general, that's about all you're ever going to see when it comes to retro gaming. You have your handheld systems like the Game Boys and things like that, and then you obviously have your home consoles and stuff like that. But what if there was a better way to do things? What if there's an in-between place? And so I started thinking about this the other day, and I realized that instead of just going the full Monty and trying to get a full-on TV setup, what about an in-between? So in today's video, we're going to try to test something like that out, and that's going to be this portable monitor here. Now, this is by a company named AWOW, which is a company that sent me a mini PC, like a PC stick, a couple months ago. And so we're going to test out some random devices on this monitor here. And I have to say that I'm pretty impressed with what it came out to be. For example, this is only about 15 inches. I think it's like 15 and a half inches altogether. And it's a, 1080p display and 60 frames per second and stuff. I mean, this is what it looks like. But it's actually really impressively good. Like, it's got some pretty high quality to it. Really deep blacks and things like that. Now, to be honest, I'm not like a expert when it comes to displays. I know it looks good to me and I understand how, resolution works and things like that. But all the same, I don't have like a modern, really nice TV or anything like that. And so I'm not super high on that kind of stuff, but all the same, I was very impressed by this portable monitor to the point where I wanted to do a full-on video about it. And so this has kind of turned into a monitor review, but with some context there in the sense that I'm not going to compare this against other portable monitors. I don't really know if this one's the best one for you, but I will say that what I got out of it in terms of just the quality and just the overall fun that I had with it, the portability and its features, I enjoyed this one. And so at the very least, I thought that this monitor was worth discussing in the context of using it not as a retro like handheld device and not as a full-on TV setup, but something in between, like a portable gaming solution. And so let's just throw a bunch of things at it and see what it can do. And without any further delay, let's jump into it. Okay, let's start with an unboxing. Now, this company here primarily sells through Amazon, but they've set up a link for me, which I'll have in the video description below, that if you buy it through their website, which actually just redirects to Amazon anyway, they'll give you a 30% off code. And so because of that, this monitor, which usually costs $200 on Amazon, you can get it for about $150. Now inside the box, it'll come with a few cables. So there's a USB-C to USB-C cable, and then also an HDMI cable, as well as a USB-A cable, which you can use with the power brick to power the device itself. But as I'll show you later in the video, you don't need this power brick all the time. In fact, I rarely actually used it, and that's because there are many different ways to power this monitor. So this is what it looks like here. It's super reflective, so I'm going to try to keep those reflections out of the video. Now this case/protector that it has over the screen itself can also be folded over to be used as a stand too. So let's talk about I/O. As you can see here up at the top, it has a mini HDMI input, but as you can see, it also has two USB-C inputs. The middle USB-C input here can be used for both video as well as power. And then the one on the bottom can only be used for power. So on the left side here, you have two different ways of inputting the video, as well as two different ways of charging. Now on the right side, the I/O is a little bit different. So we have the headphone jack up top, but then there's also a micro USB input, and it turns out this also can supply power to the monitor, so now you have three different ways to power up the monitor. And then finally, you have this little toggle here to get through the menu, and then that little silver button on the bottom is a back button. So there's not a lot going on in the back here. You have these two small speakers in the back, and they're fairly loud. I would say, if anything, they're a little bit tinny, but they do get pretty loud for the size of this monitor. Now let me showcase the things I'm going to plug into the monitor. We're going to start with this PC stick, which I mentioned in the introduction. And I did a full review on this and basically turned it into a Batocera mini gaming PC. And I really do like this thing a lot, and I'll show you a little bit more of that later in the video. I also want to show off some console gameplay, so I'm going to use the Xbox Series S here, just by virtue of the fact that this is the smallest home console that I own, and it's just nice and portable, and I think it goes really well with a portable monitor. We're also going to try out cell phone gaming, so I'm going to use my LG V60 here. Now this phone actually can do video out via USB-C, so we're going to actually test that out here in the video as well. And then I figured we should try a retro handheld, so I'm going to try my latest one, which is the RG552. This one also has a mini HDMI out. And last but not least, I also want to try out the Nintendo Switch. I'm curious to see whether or not the USB-C output here in the bottom will work like a dock when I plug it into the monitor. In terms of controllers, I'm mostly going to use the 8BitDo SN30 Pro. This just seems like a nice and compact portable little controller, and this can be used both in Bluetooth or wired. And for Xbox, I'm going to use the Forza 5 controller here. This thing is both hideous and ugly. I love it so much. Okay, so this is where I'm actually going to do my monitor setup here. I have this dumb little table here. I don't really have any space in my little studio that I have, so this is really just what we're going to have to work with. Let me show you what it's like to prop this thing up. Now, you could essentially just hold it up like this, but I found that there is a magnetic snap that happens about halfway through the monitor, and that seems to be your best bet. All the other angles don't really work that well. To be honest, that one angle is about the only one you can use. But of course, you could always buy something like a tablet stand and then use that instead. Now, taking off this case here, you can see just how thin and lightweight this monitor is. It's about 500 grams with the case off and about 900 grams when you put the case back on. And given the size of it, it actually feels super lightweight just by virtue of being a 15-inch monitor that weighs so little. And I'd say that's probably its biggest advantage, just how unobtrusive and lightweight it is. For example, a couple years ago, I bought a similar monitor like this, and it also cost about $200. But the quality was way worse back then, but we used it when we were moving house from one state to another, and we used this while we were waiting for our pack-out to actually arrive. And so for a month straight, we used a portable monitor like this hooked up to a Mac Mini, which is probably why I have such fond feelings about a portable solution like this, because it really can help you out in a pinch. Okay, now let's actually start testing it out so you can see what it looks like. Here is going to be the Xbox Series S first. Now, just to give you an idea of how this is set up, I've plugged the Xbox into my wall, and then I'm using the HDMI cable that came with the device hooked in from the Xbox into the monitor here on the top left. And then on the bottom left, we have the USB-C to USB-A cable that also came with the device. And so this is plugged into the USB port on the Xbox, and it's actually powering the monitor too. So you really only have to use one outlet to control this entire setup here. And of course, I'm using that ugly and gorgeous Forza 5 controller to play the game. And this is Halo Infinite, and it's running really well, 1080p at 60 Hz. Now obviously the Xbox Series S can do a higher refresh rate, and this monitor obviously cannot handle that. So there is some compromises here, but again, at this price of $150 to $200, this is still some exceptional performance. When it comes to picture quality, I think that the contrast is really good here, and I'm just using the default settings just to give you an idea of what's available. But it has some fairly decent brightness. I think it goes up to 220 nits altogether. But either way, the picture quality here for a 1080p display at 15.5 inches looks really sharp and clear. I really like it. Now let's talk a little bit about some of the menu options here. I'm not going to dwell on this too much, but I do want to show that there are a variety of options. You have a backlight option, which is basically brightness. I'm running this at an 8 out of 10 right now, but you can go higher. Same thing with contrast, it goes up higher as well. And there are other options, including sharpness and color temperature, things like that. And like I said, the volume does get pretty loud. I'm doing a 5 out of 10 for most of this video here. And one neat feature is that it has different aspect ratios. You can do 16:9 as well as 4:3 or 5:4. So all in all, you have quite a few menu options here, not a ton, but again, this is supposed to be a very simple setup, and so it makes sense that there aren't a huge amount of options here. Either way, when it comes to portable console gameplay, this is a neat setup. I like the fact that you only have to use one wall outlet to control everything, and the picture looks really nice here. This will be really fun for like a high-tech camping getaway. Okay, now let's use my Android phone. I'm going to use this 8BitDo wireless controller here hooked up via Bluetooth. Now the cool thing about this setup is that the phone itself is connected just from USB-C to USB-C, and not only is it showing the video out, but it's also powering on the monitor too. So this is a single source, completely portable solution here. Now obviously this will drain your phone battery very quickly. I would expect to play no more than 1 or 2 hours when you have this kind of setup, but all the same, it's a really cool proof of concept. Here I am playing PS2 emulated on an Android phone on a portable monitor using my Bluetooth controller. It's just like a really fun setup. Like for me as a kid, like this would have been amazing. And of course, you're not just limited to emulation. So here is the Sonic the Hedgehog Android port. And as you can see here, it's running at full screen 1080p 16:9 with a 60 Hz refresh rate. And it looks really nice here. As you can see, the colors really pop on it, and the contrast is just about perfect to my eyes. Okay, so now let's move over to that PC stick made by the same company. Now, unfortunately, you can't just plug the PC stick directly into this because it's a mini HDMI input, so you're going to need to use an adapter like this. I got this on Amazon for 10 bucks. I'll leave it in the video description. And like with the Xbox, you can just use a USB-C port here to power on the device itself. And I'm also going to plug in my 8BitDo controller so I have a wired connection to reduce latency. So same setup as my Xbox here. I only have one adapter plugged into the mini PC stick here, and then everything else is plugged into the monitor or the controller. So again, this is a single electrical port solution here. And so this stick I've already pre-configured with Batocera, and as you can see here, I have a complete gaming setup just like that. And again, if you were doing like a road trip with your family, or for example, you were going to go out and do some glamping, this might be a pretty cool solution. And as I mentioned before, this was really helpful for me when we were moving house across different states. Instead of trying to bring a monitor across the country, I decided to just use this little one here, and it worked out just well for the month that we were waiting for our stuff to arrive. So it's a kind of neat balance between, playing something on a TV or just using a retro handheld. And theoretically, you could make this completely independent of a power outlet. For example, if you had a pretty hefty power brick like this one here, you can just plug this into the monitor to do the powering. And then you can use whatever else you want for the HDMI input. For example, here's the RG552. So this is a completely wireless solution. I'm powering it via a power brick, and the display itself is provided by the RG552, a retro handheld device. And so this is kind of cool if you ever wanted to up the ante a little bit, and instead of playing on the beautiful screen of the 552, you could put it on this screen instead. Now, same deal with this one. The Nintendo Switch cannot power the actual monitor, so you're going to have to use a power bank to power the monitor, but after that, all you have to do is USB-C from the Switch over to the monitor itself. And it works really well, and one of the nice things is that it also turns off the display on the Switch to save a little bit more battery life. Now, just like with the phone and with the 552, this will probably drain the battery pretty significantly, so this isn't something you'd want to play all day, but it's going to be really great for some short gameplay sessions. And given the fact that the Nintendo Switch is very friendly when it comes to couch co-op, this would be a great opportunity to have a bunch of people kind of sitting around and playing Mario Party or something like that in a portable environment. Either way, I think there's quite a bit of opportunities with this monitor, and I hope I've kind of shown that off here in this video. So yeah, that's really about it for this video. I just wanted to show off this portable monitor and some of the kind of gaming opportunities you have available when you think outside the box like this. Now, am I saying that this monitor is for everybody? Absolutely not. I personally just think it's kind of cool to show off different opportunities that you can make with retro gaming, and this is just one of many. And like I said earlier, if you want to follow the links in the video description, it's actually going to provide you with a larger coupon code, and so you can get these for about 150 bucks, and I think it's well worth it. Anyway, let me know what you think in the comments below, and as always, thanks for watching, and be sure to like and subscribe if you found this helpful, and we will see you next time. Happy gaming.